So I'm going to kick it off with just some general information, and then the rest of the time is going to be for you to ask me any questions that you would like that you're thinking about with middle school. So I am Craig Smith. I am the proud principal at Middle School Central. Some of you, if you go to Middle School North, might have Dr. Harp. Just depends on where your journey goes next. We both work really, really closely together. So he did a session just like this at the 3 elementary schools that feed into Middle School North, and I do this for the 3 elementary schools that feed into Middle School Central, but almost all of our information isn't unique because we build a middle school experience in Center Grove that is very, very similar. So I don't want you to worry if your journey takes you somewhere else that you might not have all of your questions answered, but we're going to try to alleviate as much of your anxiety as we can. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about middle school. First and foremost, you're probably wondering about schedules. Okay, I noticed that when I was being introduced, that he shared how important it is to finish your year on an upswing. Okay, on that upward part of the roller coaster, as he said. That's super important because what you do and how you finish this elementary journey is still going to impact your schedule because we look at your grades. We look at how well you finished up on NWEA. We're going to take a look at your iLearn scores. So those are all very important components of data that you still have an opportunity to impact in the last 3 weeks of school. So please do that. Your schedule when you get to our school. We have almost 1,200 students that will be in our building in grades 6, 7, and 8. Sounds like a lot. But what we do is very similar here in your elementary school is we take that big school and we start breaking it down. The first thing we do is break it down by grade level. So there's an 8th grade area, 7th grade area, and a 6th grade area. The second thing we do to make it smaller is we put you on a team. And in 6th grade, currently, we have 3 teams. Next year, we're growing, so we may have 4 teams. We may have 5 teams. We're not sure yet. But when we make those teams, it makes it a little smaller. So for example, if you have 3 team teachers that you are going to work with, let's say you're on the yellow team, and this year the yellow team's 4 people. Okay, so if you are assigned to the yellow team, you'll have 4 teachers that work with you. 1 for math, 1 for language arts, 1 for science, 1 for social studies. So you'll rotate to those 4 classes, and those 4 teachers will take care of your team. Okay, that's going to be about 120 kids will be on that team. If you're on a 3-person team, it's about 90 kids on that team that you will have all of your classes with. Those are also the students that you will have lunch with. So it's a way that it makes a big place small. On that team, when you rotate to those classes, those are 4 of your classes. You'll have 2 other classes. Those 2 other classes will be an elective class, so much like the classes that you're in now, specials, where you will have a music class for 1 of those classes. And then on the other side of that, you might have tech ed, which is on computers doing 3D printing, lots of design work. You might have STEM class, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, where you will design things and do project-based instruction. You could also have art as one of those elective classes, and then you rotate through those classes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So you might not have all of those classes as a 6th grader, but you very well could circle around to them as a 7th grader or as an 8th grader. So as far as scheduling goes, are there any questions about schedules? And I'll be happy to answer those, and then we'll go on to the next topic. Yes, sir. Okay, do you have to wake up early? That's a great question. So it is a change because I just pulled up here during your entrance at school, and that was what, about 9 o'clock? At Middle School Central, we open our doors at 7 a.m. I know, right? But here's the good news. What time do you guys get out of school?
Like 3:30.
3:30, 3:45, something like that? Okay, so when you go to Middle School Central on an early release day, we are done at 1:55. And on a regular school day, we are done at 2:40. So although you start a lot earlier, you actually you get out of school a little earlier as well. So that's how that works. Classes start at 7:30 with a homeroom time. And then after that 8 o'clock mark, you start going to that schedule where you go to your 4 core classes and your 2 electives. We don't know what order those will be in yet. We're still building those things. And then on July 27th will be the opportunity for you to come in this summer, pick up that schedule, find out what team you're on, and then you'll be able to walk the building and see how that schedule flows. What I will tell you is Skyward is not the place for you to look this summer, because we're doing a lot of scheduling things. And in that Skyward, there's a lot of things changing. So sometimes you see information that's not accurate. It's not until the July 27th time when you physically pick up that piece of paper that your schedule is ready to go. So please keep that in mind. Skyward's a great place to get a lot of information, but your schedule, wait until the 27th, and that's when it is accurate. Okay, so I talked about teaming, talked about the daily schedule. Any other questions in regards to the schedule? Yes, sir, nice and loud.
How many specials will we have?
Okay, how many specials will you have during the day? 2. Okay, so you will have your 4 core classes, and then you will go to a music class, and then you will go to one of those other classes. That makes up your 6 periods of a school day. Okay, so that's very important for you to know as you think about how you will travel through your day. In 6th grade currently, it'll show up as 8 periods. And the reason it shows up as 8 periods is you actually go to your 3 core classes, math, language arts, science, then in the afternoon, math, language arts, social studies. Then you go to your elective classes. But we'll kind of see how that schedule works out. We may have to tweak what the order is for each of you during the summer. So when you get that schedule, when you come and see us in July, you'll be able to see the order. Okay? Yes, sir. Nice and loud.
Is there a difference between the classes with 4 teachers and 3 people and 3 teachers? Like, do you have one less class? Or?
Great question. So the question was, if you have a 3-person team, how is that different than a 4-person team? On a 4-person team, you may see a teacher for math, language arts, science, and social studies. If you are on a 3-person team, you'll have the same teacher for science and social studies. Okay, so that's the difference. And because there's a 4th person, you may end up with a different language arts teacher or a different math teacher than some of your friends. But those 4 teachers you will rotate to in some fashion. But great question. If you're on a 3-person team, you're going to see all 3. Excellent. Up in the top.
We get on a schedule, like a piece of paper to know what schedule.
Yep. So you'll get that piece of paper on July 27th if you can come and visit. If you can't and you show up on the first day of school, we'll have one for you then too. Okay? That's all things that we can work out in the schedule. Some things that I'd like to transition to now. Big topic that you guys usually ask is about phones. Okay? So phones in middle school. Right now, because of COVID and the pandemic, we carried backpacks. Okay, we don't know if we're going to carry backpacks again next year, but if we do, the expectation is your phone is off and in that backpack. There's no reason during the school day for you to need your phone. You'll have an iPad. Okay, all students at middle school have an iPad, so you'll have that you're going to be using every day, and every classroom has a phone, and every classroom has an adult. So we ask that the phones are turned off and in your backpack if you have one. If we have lockers, okay, we have lockers, the lockers are there at school, but if we assign lockers and you're using them instead of backpacks, we ask that the phone is turned off and kept in your locker. Your locker and your backpack is a place for you to keep your things. So combinations of lockers shouldn't be shared. You shouldn't be telling your friend, oh, you can use my locker, it's closer to one of your classes. That's kind of your safe place for you to lock things up and it stays secure. Obviously, you put that phone in your locker and you share your combination, what could happen to that phone? It could disappear. Okay, so we always want to keep that locker combination to ourselves. We will have lots of opportunities for you to practice lockers. One thing that I always suggest is if you're ever out at like the dollar store or the Dollar Tree, if they have a combination combination locks all open the same way. So you can practice with any combination lock. So if you have one sitting around at home or you get one at like the dollar store, you can practice. And that way it's just different. It's on your locker, different numbers, but you'll be able to know how the process works and which way to turn the lock. When you visit us in July, we will have lockers that you can practice on. So we'll have combinations out. You can practice how to open it and close it so that you get used to that and you don't have to worry about it. One question that I've gotten before is, do middle school kids really get shut and locked in their locker? I have been doing this for almost 15 years now, and I've had it happen this many times. It just doesn't happen. The lockers are actually pretty small. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay? Question up in the top. Oh, great question. Can we decorate our lockers? Currently, no. However, we will see how the whole process works. The reason we didn't this year is because a lot of kids aren't using their locker. And number two, if you guys remember 2 years ago, right before spring break, we had everybody have to go home. And there was all this stuff that we had to pack up and take back home with us. And there were a lot of things in lockers that we had to take care of. So we took away that option for this year, but we'll see next year. I send a lot of communication out. It'll go through Parent Square, which your parents probably already use, or through Skyward. It'll probably be Parent Square. And with Parent Square, I'll communicate that kind of thing. So when that messaging comes out this summer, you will see if we're using lockers or if we're using backpacks or if you can decorate. Yes, sir. Okay, great question. They are not key. Well, there are keys, but you use the combination. So it's a circle that has numbers on it. If we're in a hurry, we have teachers that can help by using a key. I have a set of keys that will do that to help if we need to, but our goal will get you to practice to where you can open and close it on your own. Okay? Yes? Okay, good question. Do combinations locks change? The combination locks change each year. Okay, so the year that you have that locker, it's yours with a designated combination. Okay, and then the next year we rotate it to the next group of children and so forth. Okay, questions about lockers? Let's keep it in lockers. If you have something else, I'll get it at the end. Yes?
I have a question about the lockers. Do you choose your own code?
Okay, great question. We assign you your locker, so we tell you which locker, and we give you the combination for you to practice. And that sheet of paper that I was telling you has your schedule on it, also has your locker and your combination on it. So you'll have a sheet that you can use and reference. All right, up in the top. Can you repeat that a little louder? Excellent. If you forget your combination, what do? We have tons of adults in the building that can help, okay? And then you can always go to our office and we can print you a new schedule that has that information on it. All right? One more question on this and then I'll go to the next topic.
If we are using lockers, are you still allowed to use your backpack?
Yeah. So this year, the question was, can we still use our locker if we have backpacks, or can we still use backpacks if we have a locker? We're not sure yet. This year, students had both. They could use their backpack, they could use their locker. Most of them carry their backpacks and switch about halfway through the day. So they have their morning books, and then they go at around lunchtime and they swap out for their afternoon books. But we'll figure that routine out together, and we'll work together to figure that out. Okay? Another question that I always get is, what kind of after-school activities do we have available at middle school? So in middle school, lots of school sports are what begin, and a lot of school clubs. So some examples of the sports that a sixth grader can participate in, because you can't participate in everything, but here are the sports. Golf. So you can play golf as a sixth grader. You can play tennis as a sixth grader. You can run track, and you can run cross country. You can also wrestle, and you can also swim. So those are the sports that we have throughout the school year that a sixth grader can be a part of. All right, so if you're interested in those things, be thinking about them. Some examples of our after-school clubs, which I will tell you we didn't do a lot of this year because of COVID, but hopefully we'll be able to do a lot more next year. But some of those clubs that did participate, Robotics is big in middle school. They have after-school robotics programming. We have chess clubs and book clubs, and trying to think of some of our others. Really, when you're in middle school, if you have an interest in a club, all you have to do is come and talk to us about the clubs that you're interested in, and we will try to get an adult that's interested in being a partner with you for that club and getting it started if we have interest. Okay? So we really try to be responsive to you and the needs that you have as far as after-school activities. All right? Any questions about after-school activities? Yes, ma'am.
Is there math bowl or spell bowl?
Math bowl or spell bowl, thank you, yes. So we didn't do a bunch of that this year, but we've had math bowl, we've had spell bowl, we've had science Olympiad, which is the science version of those. And that usually happens more on the 7th and 8th grade side. We've done science fairs in the past. There's lots of academic type clubs that kick off. Again, a lot of it depends on what you're interested in. Yes, ma'am. Art club, yes. Thank you for reminding me of that one. So there is an art club. It meets with our art teacher, so if that is your thing, absolutely. Yes, sir. Are you allowed to do more than one club? Yes, and. Okay, as we started this presentation, we talked a lot about academic expectations that we have here at Walnut Grove. Those similar things are important to focus on first when you're in middle school. There is a ton of things to be involved in, but you want to always put yourself as a student first and then think about the other things that you're adding on, because the thing that is different when you come to middle school is you're going to every single subject every day. Okay, and those classes are going to be around total anywhere between 45 and 80 minutes per day that you are going to be doing schoolwork per subject. So when you think about that throughout the school day, and then you put on top of that that you're going to have probably a little bit of homework in each of those classes, not every night, but when you put your school day on top of your homework, what's left for the other things that you want to do? So you want to balance those things out very well. But if you're able to build more than one thing into your schedule and still keep up on your academics, you can make those choices. Great question. Yes?
I have one question. If you want, like, say you want to do like art club, and you what one of, say you're wanting to do robotics, and you want your adult that's interested to be one of your parents. Can it be one of your parents?
Okay, excellent question. So can parents be involved in our clubs is I think what the question was. And this year, no, because we didn't have a lot of volunteers that were allowed to come in. However, if things change for next year, volunteers can help out with our clubs. We've had volunteers for robotics. We've had volunteers for art club that have come in and worked out. So if we are allowed to bring in visitors, we will have that. Another thing that we do have and will hopefully be able to activate once again is our PTO, which is a way that your parents can be involved. We do a lot of positive behavior rewards structures. So if you're making good decisions, we give out what are called champ cards. Somebody want to tell me what you do here at Walnut Grove? If you're caught doing something really well, I bet you have something. Wildcat card? What?
Like my teacher does like dojo points.
Dojo points, so those are some things, yep. So those are all excellent examples of exactly what a champ card is. Okay, so those examples that you were giving me on things that teachers can give you for showing that positive behavior, we have champ cards. And those champ cards are given to you when you're going above and beyond, when you're doing fantastic work in a classroom, when you are really just exceeding the normal expectations of a student at Middle School Central. And when you get those, you collect them. And as you collect those, you have two choices. You can use them kind of like money in that we have a menu where, for example, you can take 100 of those champ cards and you can choose to pie me in the face. Oh yeah. Or a teacher that you have a good connection with, you can choose to pie them in the face. And what's kind of nice about this also is once we've been pied 5 times, we get to pick a student. Yeah. So we try to have some fun with this, but that's one option. There are ways that you can get a special treat at lunch. You can have a special lunch with friends. There are lots of things that you can utilize those champ cards for. Another thing that you can use those for is we have monthly drawings where live on Center Grove TV, we have CGTV at Middle School Central, we go on morning announcements once a month and we draw champ cards kind of like in a lottery system. So you've put all your champ cards in that you want for the month. If we draw yours out, you get a special prize. So for example, we've got one coming up in May, and the champ drawing that we do in May will have pool toys and pool noodles and slip and slides and different tents, things that you might go fishing. We try to do as many things that kind of relate to the season, and then there's candy and treats and different things, snacks that you can win in regards to that. So those are all things that we do with our champ drawing that you can be a part of just by collecting those champ tickets or champ cards as we refer to them at Middle School Central. Yes?
If you get 5 times and then you choose one of us, is that optional that we can back out?
That's very good. Yes, it's one of those things we always want to make sure that you want to be a participant. It's not something that we can just say, okay, since you asked questions today, I choose you. Like that's not going to happen. We're always going to make sure that you're playing along, okay? So just keep that in mind. It's all about fun and building relationships. It's just like with teachers. We don't have all teachers that will participate. Okay? So some teachers are like, absolutely, put a pie in my face, no problem. And there are other ones that like, no, I'll let them do something else. Okay? We have one teacher that actually will make you a pie. They're like, no, don't pie me in the face, I'll make you a pie. So we try to be creative and we have some fun, but it is a way that we try to find what you are interested in, and we support the great decisions that you're making to try to keep you from making a poor decision or maybe having to have a consequence. Okay? So now, any questions that you have? I know that there's probably a couple about dress code. Those are always out there. So let's start right here. Different categories for what? Different categories for Robotics Club. Okay. So as far as the different categories go, we have levels of robotics. So you may have heard of the Lego robotics program. That's something that is kind of the lower end level. You may have even done some of that here in elementary school. And then it progresses into the higher levels of the robotics program in Center Grove. We have the regular programming at Central, and then some of our students will actually work with high school students when they get into the upper grade levels. So it just kind of depends on your interest level and then how good you get at doing the robotics work. But that all starts by joining the robotics program that is a club at Middle School Central. So it happens outside of the school day and in the evenings. Yes, ma'am.
Can we decorate our iPad cases?
Okay, iPad cases. iPad cases are to be left as is, because in that case, if something happens to your case or to your iPad, it's going to qualify for insurance. Okay, so my understanding is your iPads next year will have a special case that will have a keyboard, so that's a little different than what we've had in the past, but you will get those iPads issued to you at the beginning of the year. Let's go here.
I have a question, like how much homework do we get usually every day?
Okay, great question. So question is, how much homework do you get each day? It really depends on the teacher. Math is probably going to have a small homework piece, but all of our math teachers do what's called weekly skills. So you will have a skills practice that you will have to do every week. Now, if you choose to do that, my son is a 6th grader. He chooses to do that on Wednesdays because it's early release, and that's when he really works on his weekly skills. And it takes him about 45 minutes to an hour to do that. But he chooses to do it one day. You could choose to do a couple of problems each night, and it only take you 5 or 10 minutes each night. So it's kind of up to you to balance those pieces out. Some classes you'll have no homework at night. Some classes will give you a couple of days of homework. Some will give you 3 or 4 days of homework. Okay, so it just depends on the teacher and the class. So once you start getting that routine figured out during the school year, that's one part about middle school. You have to begin to balance your own schedule. So you have to start figuring out, how much homework do I have? What classes do I have homework in, and how am I going to balance that out during the week with all of the other activities that we have planned in our day? Yes? How long are the classes? So if we do the 3 classes, and I'll say this loosely, let's say it's 3 classes in the morning and 3 classes in the afternoon for your core classes, those will be about 35 minutes apiece. And then 35 to 40, depending on if it's an early release day. And those classes, like you have math in the morning and the afternoon, language arts in the morning and the afternoon, science in the morning, social studies in the afternoon is an option. If you do that, you're talking, if we combine them, you're going to have about 80 minutes of math per day. Okay, they may take place at 2 times, but total about 80. Same thing for science, you'll have about 40. Social studies, you'll have about 40. And then when you go to your elective classes, those are about 40 minutes apiece. So 40 minutes of music every day, 40 minutes of one of those other electives. Great question. Go here and then to you. Volleyball. Is there volleyball? Not for team in 6th grade, but it is in 7th and 8th. So if there was a sport that I didn't mention, more than likely it happens in 7th and 8th grade. Volleyball is one of those. Basketball is one of those. Football is one of those. Okay, so all of those activate once you get into the 7th grade. Yes, ma'am. Fundraisers, yes. So we do, we operate on a few. Some of them are classroom-based. Some of them are group-based. Okay, but the biggest one will happen in September, and it's where we sell chocolate bars. And those chocolate bars we sell all over the community, and we raise that money so then we can do the champ drawings and the different celebrations of students that we do all year long. So yes, big fundraiser. If you participate, there are levels of rewards that you get, including, like this year, our kids got a special fundraising lunch. They get a special fundraising party outside. In the past, this was before we had the pandemic happen, but before that we would fill a gymnasium with like blow-up obstacle courses and slides and all of those kind of things. So I don't know what it'll look like in the future, but we try to make it a lot of fun. This year, we just are taking a lot of stuff outside to do those celebrations. Yes?
So can you pick what subject you do at a certain time?
Okay, so the question is, do you get to pick which subjects you have at what time? We have to schedule almost 350 to 400 students. So we pick the order of your schedule. We do know that you will take a math class, a language arts class, a science class, a social studies class, and 2 electives. The order will be up to us, and when you pick up that schedule, it'll show you your order. Okay? Great question. Yes, sir. One more time.
Do you get to take your iPads home?
Okay, great question. iPads do go home. Okay, so you get your iPad usually sometime that first week of school, hopefully in the first couple of days, and then you will have a routine of taking it back and forth. But again, you're responsible for everything on that iPad, just like you're responsible for everything on your Chromebook. So the things that you search, the things that you do on that iPad are always things that we will monitor and want you making good decisions. So please keep that in mind. One more time. Why do we have iPads instead of computers? District decision. I know you guys are probably used to Chromebooks, right? So Chromebooks are elementary, is what our elementary has chosen to use. At our level 6 through 12 for right now, we use iPads. So that's been a decision that was made several years ago. So once you make that move into 6th grade, we transition into iPads. We've got about 3 minutes, I think, on my clock, so we'll go with some folks I haven't heard from yet. PE is an elective. I left that one out. My PE folks are going to be so upset with me. So we do have PE and wellness as one of the options. And in PE and wellness, we have a weight room. We have a cardio room, which is a room full of treadmills, rowing machines, stepping machines, bicycles. So you could be in our cardio space, you could be in our weight room, you could be outside on the track, especially on a day like today when it's sunny out. You'll go outside for your PE class. There are lots of things in our gym that we work on. I know some of their favorite units are ping pong. You'll learn to play ping pong and be able to do that. We have yard games, which are things that you might see in your backyard. So there's a pretty cool game that they've built out of PVC pipe that's called 9 Square in the Air. How many of you have played 4 Square? So you've got the 4 Square that you play down on the ground. This has a ball and all of the squares are up above your head. And you're playing it through the squares above you. It's a pretty neat game, but it's a twist on your normal 4 Square game that you're used to playing. Yes? What's that? Do you get to choose your specials? Yes, and kind of. Okay? So everybody chooses a music. You've probably already filled out a Google form, would be my guess, already this year that says, are you interested in band, choir, or orchestra? As a 6th grader, you will take one of those. Then your other elective, you get to say, here are the ones that I would like to take, and then we try to give you your first choice, and if you don't get your first choice, we try to give you your second. Most people get their first or second choices, and then what you have to remember is when you go to 7th grade, you're going to get the thing that you missed. So if you have taken tech ed, but you really wanted art, you're going to get tech ed in 6th grade, but you'll get art in 7th. Does that make sense? So you'll definitely get to rotate through the elective classes. Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to have to wear masks next year?
Okay, are we going to have to wear masks next year? I don't know. If we do, we will, and you guys know how to do that. If not, we won't. And when I was talking about those parent square communications that get sent out, look for that communication because any update will be there. Also on the website. Also through all of the other ways that we communicate. So just keep that in mind. Your parents will get that communication. So I'm sure they'll be happy to tell you once that's done. To my specials adults that are in here, how am I doing on time? 15 more minutes. I know that my clock was about 45 to 50, so I'll go 5 more minutes with questions if we have them. Yes, ma'am. Dress code. All right, let's talk about that. Okay, so for the most part, it doesn't change a whole lot from elementary school. The one thing that I would say to you is you just want to make sure that it is age and school appropriate. That is the best way for me to describe it. So, as an example, leggings. Girls always want the question about leggings, do we get to still wear them in middle school? Yes. Okay. What we pay a great deal of attention to is the length of what you have over the leggings. So if you have a shirt that only comes to your waist and not down to your fingertips or just below your rear end is the best way for me to describe it, we may have you change your top. Okay, so it's all about the lengths. If you take your hands and you put them down at your side, if you're wearing something that's longer than your fingertips, you're always going to be fine. I promise you. Okay? That goes for shorts. If your shorts are longer than your fingertips, you're fine. Now that doesn't mean if you're like this. Doesn't mean if you're like this. It means when you're standing up, nice and straight, you put your hands down, anything that's longer than your fingertips, you're going to be okay. So if you've got leggings and you've got your sweatshirt on it, it's a good rule to think of when you're looking in the mirror. Okay, for our boys, biggest thing that we usually have to talk about is a tank top. If you're wearing like a jersey, and that jersey, it has the tank top straps that go up on your shoulders, you have to have a t-shirt under it. Okay, so it's not probably a whole lot different than what you do. You just wear a t-shirt under your jerseys and you're going to be fine. That's usually our biggest boy question, and our biggest girl question is about the length of things that you wear, skirts, shorts, anything along those lines. I just say when you go and get ready in the morning, if you look in the mirror and go, I'm not so sure, you probably shouldn't wear it. If you look in the mirror and you see that it's longer than your fingertips, you're good to go, come on in. Okay, so that's a good rule to follow as you're getting dressed each day. Anyone who I haven't heard from yet? Okay, and those that I have. Let's keep going. Yes?
For the elective classes, can you take the class more than once?
Okay, can you take an elective class more than once? It sometimes happens in your schedule. Definitely music. When you make that music choice, we would love to see you stay in that music for 3 years because it builds great futures for you. As far as your other electives go, you probably will repeat, especially in 8th grade once you've found what you've liked. If you tried tech ed, you tried PE, you tried art, you tried STEM, you tried some of our other elective courses, computers, foreign language is in there too. All of those classes, you may find that there's one that you really like, and that tends to be where you kind of lean as an 8th grader. So you're just getting started in 6th grade and kind of experiencing as many things as you can to find what's your favorite. Yes? Say it one more time.
If you take the same music for 3 years, I've heard that you could go to Kings Island.
Okay, great. So the question was, if you take music, if you are in a music class and you take it for 2 or 3 years, do you get to go to Kings Island or some of those? In the past, yes. Okay, a lot of it's going to depend on the rules that we have to follow kind of post-pandemic. So there are field trips in traditional type school that we like to experience, and we'll try to get those back going. But I know, for example, that Kings Island trip that you referenced didn't happen last year, and they're not taking it this year. But once those things get back to normal, we hope that we can do that once again. Yes, ma'am. Okay, hair color. As of right now, yes, but. Okay, it has to be a natural hair color. Okay, so think about the hair colors that are natural: blonde, brown, black, red. Those colors are natural, so you can come to school with that color of hair. Anything that is kind of exotic or different, not at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know. Okay, but that's in our current dress code. We also, for you guys, this is I need to probably wrap up. So hands down and listen to this part. we have a handbook, okay? It is in digital form and it is on the website. If you go to Student Handbook, lots of the questions that you've had today are in that Student Handbook. That is a great place for you to look. It's a great place for your parents to look. Any big school communication as we go into next year, dates of times that you can come into our building, any updates on masks or any of the other things that we need to share with you that are as we go into the next school year, Parent Square messages will come. We will have those items on our website. The most important thing that I can say to you to remember to tell your parents is make sure that their emails and contact information are updated in Skyward. If you get those things done, we can communicate to you and help reduce your anxieties as you travel into middle school. Finish strong. Make sure that you're being the best Wildcat and the best fifth grader that you can be for these last 3 weeks of school. And then we can talk about starting your journey as a middle school Central Trojan that is going to be starting their journey that prepares you for high school. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity today. As you're exiting, if you have a quick question, I'll kind of stand around, but I really appreciate your attention. What you showed me today is that I'm excited to welcome the next group of sixth graders in because your behavior was wonderful, great questions, and I'll look forward to seeing you in August. So thank you very much.